recognize Henderson. Hey, Bridget. Regent David Alders. Other regents, though, that are not present are Scott Coleman, Nelda Blair, Secretary, Karen Gant, Bob Garrett, Tom Mason, Ken Schaefer, and Kate Childress. Kate, are you here by chance? Student Regent. Kate, good to see you. On behalf of our Board of Regents, I want to thank you all for being here this afternoon and helping us with this great effort to select the next president of our university. Let me say up front, we will not find another Baker Patillo. Outstanding person who bled purple, loved this university. And for 5 decades, this was his life. This was his life. And so to say that he's sorely missed is an understatement. To say that he would definitely bless our process and our efforts to find someone, keep the university going forward, not because of him, because of his love for this university. So having said that, along with the duties as spelled out in the board policy, in honor of Dr. Patillo's legacy, and our individual and collective love for SFA, we will take the necessary steps to confirm the next best person to assume the mantle of servant leadership. Second, to partner with each component of our community and be best positioned university to continue to serve its critical role in the overall growth, further development of Nacogdoches and this region. And someone who will bring a high level of love, pride, passion, vision, and energy for our university. We're very blessed to have on our team for this process the very esteemed search firm of R. William Funk and Associates. They have done searches all over this country and some of the finest universities out there. We're very happy to have them join with us. And so I will get out of the way and let you all talk directly with them in the way that they have spelled out. But I want to first point out a little, we have a little timeline that's kind of guiding our work. We began really last month when the Board of Regents appointed the screening committee. Do we have any screening committee members present? Jeffrey Goon, our president? Okay. Would y'all please stand, these screening committee members? Look at their faces, very good, folks. But these are the folks that represent each of the areas outlined in board policy in terms of the faculty, the staff, the students, the alumni, and the community. We're very glad to have them on board. So we began this process really last February with the Board of Regents appointing these folks to the screening committee. And we'll have these public engagement sessions beginning this morning and continuing throughout March. And then in April, we'll try to confirm a profile of the next desired leader based on your input. Your feedback today is a big part of this. We'll advertise for the position around April, May-ish. I think we'll look like maybe a May 1st posting of an ad to begin searching for the best person out there. And it is our hope to have a finalist identified sometime around mid to late July, if not sooner, around mid to late July. And we would love to have them on board in August to begin the fall semester. Now, that's not a guarantee because our number one objective is to find the right person. If we can do it, we do it in this timeline, great. If it takes longer, it'll take longer. Because we know this is a very important role, and that's why you're here, to help us to find the best person based upon our values of our university, our hopes, our aspirations, and opportunities that we have to do the best for SFA. So, having said that, thank you all for coming out. I want to recognize Mr. Bill Funk and his son Willie Funk, and they'll lead in the next part, and I'll get out of the way. Thank you all so much.
Take mine out here. Thanks, Alton. We're so pleased to be here today and are looking forward so much to working with all of you at Stephen F. Austin on a search for a new president. As Alton mentioned, we've been doing this kind of recruiting work for over 35 years. And as he also said, we've done these searches coast to coast and border to border. As we meet here today, the sitting presidents of the following universities are just a handful of folks that we've helped and assisted in recruiting. And those would include the presidents at Rutgers, the University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Clemson, LSU, the University of Kansas, Ohio State, Purdue, the University of Minnesota, the University of Arizona, and some 50 other sitting presidents around the country. Each one of these searches, as you might suspect, is a little bit different. The needs of each institution are different, and yet one way for us to be able to begin to really initiate and launch these searches is to meet with the key constituents of the institution. And that's why we're here today and tomorrow. We'll be meeting with various groups, various constituent groups, both days. And this is the easier and fun part of our job. We get to listen more than talk. So we are going to be asking you a series of leading questions and see what comments you might have for us. Before we do that, though, let me introduce Willie Funk. As the name suggests, a relative of mine. Willie is a graduate of Emory University in Atlanta and is a cum laude graduate of SMU's law school. So if any of you need tickets, speeding tickets fixed or parking tickets fixed, see Willie after the session. So
I'll be able to refer you to somebody right away.
Willie is a licensed attorney still in the state of Texas, but has been doing this kind of work for the past 6 years. And we are the two consultants that will be working with Stephen F. Austin in the days and weeks ahead. The kind of information we need from you, though, revolves around at least 3, sometimes 4 questions, but to kind of get to the essence of the kind of person you would like to see in this role, we typically ask, what are your aspirations for the university in terms of where do you want to see Stephen F. Austin go in the future? What kind of institution will this be 10, 15 years down the road? And as part of that, what kind of challenges and opportunities do you think this next president will inherit, both immediately and longer term? Secondly, if those are the challenges and opportunities and the aspirations that you feel are important for the institution, what kind of person do you think would be best prepared to lead you on that journey to meeting those aspirations, exploiting the opportunities, and addressing the challenges that you might have? And when we ask that, we're really looking for what kind of adjectives would you use? What kind of experience would you like for this person to have? What kind of worldview? What kind of leadership style? Essentially, if you could paint the picture of the ideal next president, what would that person look like in that regard? And then finally, our charge is to help recruit the very best people in the country. Anyone could run the ad in the Chronicle and the other publications, collect the resumes that would be mailed in, and share those with the search committee. But our task, our responsibility, is to really be the proactive agent for the university, reaching out to individuals who are very happy in their current positions, aren't looking for a job. we have found over time that those are the very best candidates. And it's so often the case that when we call them to talk to them about this opportunity, they'll say, gee, Willie, this is the third call I've had in the last 6 months about a presidency or about a new presidency. What are those compelling reasons that I should become an active candidate for that post? Not because they have any negative vibrations about the institution. They just don't know. They've been so busy doing their job and doing a good job. They haven't been looking. But what would you say to that individual? What are those compelling selling points that you would share with a reluctant candidate? What are those good things that are going on here? And by sharing those with us, you'll help make us a better steward of the university as we interact with potential candidates. So there are microphones set up on in both aisles. I think there's one back in the middle. And don't forget that if you don't go first, everything will have been said when you want to go. So who wants to be first today? Just come on up to one of these microphones. Not all at once. Here we go. There should be an award for the first volunteer.
I'm on the shorter side, so. And I wrote mine down because I'll forget them. But I just wanted to address what I would like to potentially see and what I think is like an ideal president. To me, someone who's approachable and relatable, somebody I just don't know by name, but somebody who's present on SFA's campus and who I'll come into interaction with through either activities on our campus or different events. Someone who's already familiar with SFA, for me personally, I wouldn't want somebody coming from the outside in, but somebody who's already familiar with the inner workings of SFA. And that's because I feel like somebody who already has history with SFA would more generally care for the well-being of SFA and know how to handle our university. Someone who values education, knowledge is power, someone who really knows that education is powerful and who can take education and change student lives for the better. Someone who has a background in education, not only just a background in education, but somebody who has background in student affairs, who's been either in positions as director or coordinator in student activities, university, and not only university affairs and administrative affairs, but somebody who really knows student life. Someone who has a vision for the direction that SFA should be going, and not only someone with a vision, but somebody who can impact our school, somebody who has the resources and the networks that will take SFA higher. And lastly, just somebody who's already shown us that they have been in positions to lead, that can lead SFA in the right direction, and someone who's already been in positions of supervision and who has done a great job with that. So.
Great. Thank you very much. By the way, it's really so good to have members of the screening committee and members of the board present today to hear your comments. That's how serious they are about this search and about hearing your input directly. So thank you to the board members and the screening committee members who are here. Thank you so much. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Keith Rayburn. I came because I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce, and I came because I'm a recently retired executive out of the IT infrastructure business. We moved to Nacogdoches because SFA is here. We own a business here in town, but I want to talk to you today as a business leader, a parent, and then somebody that believes in the importance of SFA to the community at large. I guess let me start as a parent. I have a daughter that's still in graduate school, and so I have some things that frustrate me that I would like to see the next president have some experience in. When I look at SFA, tuition here has risen 400% since the year 2000. prices of textbooks has gone up exponentially. It's now taking 5 years to graduate with an undergraduate degree. The cost of an education has gone up substantially. I would like to see the person that you bring on board have a history of addressing those issues. I think you're going to find somebody that is academically challenged or meets those challenges that you're looking for, but how is he going to maintain SFA as an affordable alternative for our student population going forward? So I'd like to see it from that perspective. Being a new member of the Nacogdoches family, I will make a comment. I see a real divide between the university and the town. People that live in the town don't necessarily come on campus very easily. I've heard them say they'll drive to Lufkin instead of trying to come on campus. So I would like to see the new president be able to address some of that, because I think SFA plays a very important role here. So I would like to see if they have some experience working in a smaller community that's very reliant on the university as a job provider, as a entertainment provider, as an education provider. So I'd like to see that. The other thing I'd like to see is for them to be able to work with the business community here. We are trying to grow Nacogdoches. We're trying to bring in new companies to move their facilities here. How can SFA help us with that? One of the major challenges we face is our educational system here, the lower tier, the middle school, the high school, has challenges. This is a great educational university. How can they help the city address those requirements so that we can get other businesses to move here? So those are the things that I'm looking for in the next president. Again, that's different than probably what your students are looking for. So thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. This issue of tuition is a really difficult one, especially with the lessening of state aid to public universities, of course. I'm a graduate of Purdue University's graduate school, and Mitch Daniels, the current president, just sent out a letter saying that Purdue had not increased tuition now in 8 years. And quite frankly, I don't know how he's doing it. I hope he's still paying the professors and providing heat and water for the students in the dorm. But it can be done, and he's proof of that. And I think that the terrible cost of loans for students is one of the serious problems in higher education today. And hopefully this next president will certainly be aware of that, and we'll be able to address these other issues that you've mentioned.
I guess I have one other comment. I just retired from a company. We hired 20 to 50 graduates every year. And over the last 5 to 10 years, we see those graduates less capable of providing immediate assistance than they were previous to that. And it's not because they're not getting the academic training that they're needing. It's the real world on-the-job training, because they're now going to university for longer. They're coming out not having a job and those type of things. So you're spending a lot of money and a lot of resources getting those people up to speed. And unfortunately, those people are staying less and less time because of the cultural environment right now is to move jobs and try to bump up their salary. So those initial investments by companies is significant in those new hires. It's very difficult to get that investment back. So that person that comes here needs to understand how to balance between the academic side and the real world skill side.
Yeah, and then in this tight labor market, you know, that's a challenge all the way around. Who's next?
I'm a bit biased because I teach here, but I really think you guys ought to consider getting an academic for the job. By an academic, I mean a PhD who's actually taught in the classroom. All this other stuff we've talked about is just fine and dandy, but the most important part of a student's experience here is what happens in the classroom. I think over the last 20 years, we've forgotten that fact and what goes on in the classroom behind other things. And I also think we shouldn't just dismiss an outsider. I think that it's important to consider somebody from outside this institution. In many respects, this institution's as inbred as an Arkansas Ozark village. And I think we ought to look at outsiders as well.
Thank you very much. Increasingly, we've had requests to make sure that there are non-traditional candidates in our pools for president. Many boards around the country feel that these are big budgets and really a big business running colleges and universities, and we hear that call that perhaps a businessman without those academic credentials or businesswoman without those academic credentials could be appropriate. What we find, though, is candidly, at least 90% of the time, the traditional candidate still surfaces to the top. And part of it is when you talk about tenure to prospective candidates or when they're being interviewed, a non-traditional candidate, their eyes kind of glaze over. And you mean if someone's not doing their job, I can't just fire them? Well, it doesn't quite work that way. When we talk about other things, including any curricula or programmatic kinds of things, that's where the separation really occurs. And I would guess that a majority of our pool will be from an academic background, and I would put the percentages over the last 5 years of non-traditional candidates being selected as being just 1 or 2%. It's not high, but we hear you loudly and clearly. Yes, ma'am. Sorry to make you stand there for so long.
Hope I wasn't blocking anybody's view.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can you hear me okay?
You bet.
My name is Flora Farago, and I'm a faculty member in the School of Human Sciences. I'm also a representative on the Hispanic Serving Institution Readiness Team. And so, as many of you likely already know, one of our institutional goals, one of SFA's institutional goals, is to become a Hispanic Serving Institution, an HSI, by 2023. What that means is the federal government defines HSIs as schools, places of higher education that enroll at least 25% Latinx identifying students or more. So I would like to share with you my personal hopes and aspirations for the incoming president, both as a faculty member and as a representative of the HSI readiness team. I think given this institutional goal, it is absolutely critical that we make it explicit both in the job call and hire ultimately a president who will support SFA in becoming an institution that allows students of color to thrive, specifically Latinx students, but all students. A president who will help this institution to make it a priority that faculty of color are hired and retained, because there is empirical research showing that when you are represented in an institution, you're more likely to succeed. And I would love for us to hire a president who is, in general, just committed to supporting and allowing a diverse student body to thrive. The numbers are there. Whether you like it or not, we will become a Hispanic serving institution. It's just a matter of time. So I personally believe, and I'm very passionate about this just as a human being, that we need a leader who brings experience, having worked at an HSI, a leader who really will prioritize, again, supporting Latinx students and all students of color to thrive in this institution. And at last, I shall say this, given the demographics I think it is also critical that all families are made to feel welcome here, not just English speaking, but Spanish speaking parents, families, for purposes of recruitment. If we want to get there and meet this goal and succeed at it, and not just recruit students, but help them thrive and graduate them, right, and support them, it's critical, I think, that we hire a president with experience in this area. And so I hope that you can make this vision a reality.
Great, thank you very much. Last year, we completed 6 presidential searches, and one of those searches was for the first Latina president of San Diego State University, first woman and first person of Hispanic descent. We completed a search at the University of Utah, and that was the first woman in their history. We recruited a new president to the University of Louisville, and that was the first woman president of the University of Louisville. She was Indian American. I came back to the office one day and said, gee, I don't think we can recruit men anymore. But then later in the year, we recruited another woman to the presidency of Johnson & Wales. And the only male successful candidate was an Asian American fellow from China. So I share that with you to say that we understand what you've said. We are committed to the values of diversity and equal opportunity. We've not only talked the talk, we've walked the walk. And even if it's not a person of that gender or that descent, they have to be in touch with what's going on in the society generally today. And I know the search committee and the board will be ever mindful as we begin to interview candidates and to recruit them. Thank you for your passion.
I'm Sally Ann Swearingen from the School of Human Sciences. I guess we have big voices. I've been here for 36 years, and I've seen people come and go as presidents. We've been through a few, but I want a person that is forward-thinking, a person that can make a decision, progressive, enterprising, pioneering, and approachable. I want to caution this person that change is always hard to accomplish at this university. They need to understand the outside, when they come in, the culture of SFA. We want someone who's going to be invested in our community and be a part of it. We want someone who understands small towns. We're not a metropolitan area. We want someone that will bring technology everywhere into this campus and it be a priority. We want someone who really understands academia. And we want somebody that bleeds purple.
Thank you very much. Surely there is someone else who would like to step forward. Don't hold back. I can see you want to come. No.
Hi, my name is Christina Sinclair, and I'm an Associate Dean in the College of Education, and I'm in the Office of Assessment and Accountability. And I think it's important just to point out that it is the smaller comprehensive universities across the country that produce this country's educators, whether they be teachers or administrators. And SFA is currently one of those institutions. My office recommends approximately 750 candidates to the state of Texas for licensure in education. So that's teachers and other things, for example, principal, superintendent, et cetera. So I think where I'm going with this is that it would be very important for this person to help SFA not only maintain but grow their presence and their ability to help this country produce quality educators.
Great. Thank you very much. Who's next? Here we go.
Hi, I'm Ryan Ivey. I'm the athletics director. So I've been here since July, so I'm a newbie, and when we talked about the comment of the culture, there certainly is a strong culture here at SFA, and I think that is a very valid point, that someone needs to understand that. I think we need a strong leader, someone who has vision, is going to be able to cast that vision, then is going to be able to implement that vision. I think a lot of times when you think about leaders, leaders talk a lot about vision, but sometimes they have a hard time implementing that vision. And so we need someone that's going to be able to do that. But I think you heard some of the comments and things going on. I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to money, right? It all comes down to money. Everything is, I think everyone in this room has great ideas. They have great ways to improve SFA. And at the end of the day, we need more money to do that. And so we need someone who understands the business aspect of it. We need someone who understands revenue generation, whether that be private fundraising, whether that be grant dollars, whether that be partnerships with different communities out there, whatever that may be, we need to understand that. But at the end of the day, we need someone that can help us grow enrollment. And one of the things one of the questions that was sent out to us is, what is our aspirations for SFA? I'd love for SFA to be at 20,000 students. Okay, when I look at Sam Houston State University, and that is a taboo word around here, okay, and none more than for me in the athletic standpoint, okay, but when you think about Sam Houston being at 21,000 plus students, I mean, we are behind. And so we've got to have someone who understands that and is going to help us in enrollment. Because as enrollment grows, our abilities and our opportunities to grow exponentially throughout the institution will be there. And so we've got to have somebody who understands that, and someone that's going to be willing to be there for students, is going to be willing to be there for administrators, and certainly for our faculty and our staff, because it is a tough job. I don't envy this job at all. I often think that my job is busy, but I can't even imagine being a president and all the people that are pulling on this, really pulling on this position and this person. And so someone's going to have to understand that and be willing to manage all those expectations moving forward. So,
yeah. School superintendents and university presidents, right, Upton? Ryan, let me ask you a question, though. In terms of the athletics program, what is your single biggest challenge at the moment, if you can identify one?
yeah, facilities.
Facility?
Facilities for us, we are lagging behind model from a facility standpoint. We are at a point in time when we look at SFA athletics that we have a chance to really take a step forward. We obviously did not do that this year with basketball, but we feel like basketball is a sport for us that can help us grow the institutional profile. And in doing so, I'm a firm believer that athletics is the front porch of any institution. I often tell people, though, there's a whole house behind that porch. And our job from an athletic standpoint is to make sure that we're painting the best and most positive light on that institution possible. And athletics is certainly something that can do that. And so, but in order to do that, our experience has to be better. And our experience gets better for our student athletes, for our fans, for our donors, for potential donors, for whatever it may be, people that come in through facilities. And that's how people view us. And if we want to be, our vision from an athletics department standpoint is to be the leading mid-major athletics department in the country. And if we're going to be that, then we have to improve our facilities. And that's something that we have to do sooner rather than later.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you. Anyone else? Here we go.
Hi, I'm Tammy Mitchum. I'm the Assistant Director in Financial Aid. And one of the things that I've talked to other alumni about is increasing some of our academic departments. We recently added a couple of engineering programs, but I would love to see a few more. I have a lot of friends in the oil industry, and they basically say it would be fantastic to have a couple of more engineering degrees that they could pull into Houston and really use those students. I'd also love to see us increase our interaction with internships and things like that for our students. I think it's sorely lacking. And our institution, unfortunately, still has a reputation of being a party school. I would like to see SFA's perception taken to a more serious academic institution. I know that's been hanging around for a while, but it's still out there. So.
Okay, very good, thank you. Too much partying going on in this room. Who's next? Willie, do you want to fill this void in conversation? Anything you'd like to share with the group?
Nothing particularly insightful, though I will say these themes have been consistent from every group we've met with, that there is a tremendous amount of passion for this institution. It's the kind of place where you walk around, everybody's wearing purple, and you can tell from the comments and the concerns and the opportunities that you see for the institution. That's shown through again here today, and certainly we're grateful for the insights you've provided. But if anybody else wants to step to the microphone, we have the time.
Hi there. My name is Emily Jefferson, and I currently work in disability services here on campus. I'm a class of 12 and 15 alum of SFA, and I kind of am a visual person, and so I just want to take a quick poll. How many of you are lumberjacks? You're an alum of SFA. I think that that's an awesome representation of kind of what this community and what this university stands for. I understand, you know, moving forward and growing forward, and I think we all have a passion for that. And so I think the room's kind of split in half in terms of, oh, outside versus inside and what all that looks like. But I just think that that was an excellent representation of kind of a pool of our faculty and staff and community here. That's here now. And then secondly, I think too, it's important to point out our university, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, our university is one of, I think, 2 in Texas that are not part of a system right now. Is that correct? 1 of 4. Okay, 1 of 4. And I think that that's important to point out only because that makes us a little bit more unique. You know, I didn't choose SFA as a student because, you know, I was like, oh, I want to go to A&M, or I want to go to UT, or I want to go here. I literally stepped on the campus and it felt like home. And I can remember that, you know, as an 18-year-old. And so I think thinking from the students' perspective as well, which I know that you'll probably talk to them separately, but thinking about the students that we attract and the students that are here, they're not necessarily wanting to go to UT or A&M or something like that. They're wanting to come to a place like SFA. So having a president who understands that, and we're not trying to be, you know, we're not trying to be Sam Houston, we're not trying to be something else. I think it's very unique, you know, just what we already have here. So just growing what that actually, you know, what it can be in 15 years, just making what we have here even better. So.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
And to trail on behind that comment a little bit, I know the natural inclination sometimes is to immediately think of those things that needed addressing for deficiencies or maybe reshaping what we're doing. But how about some of those exciting opportunities that you perceive out there that maybe are ripe for the plucking for this next president to come in and address maybe right away? Anything along those lines?
So again, being the new guy, okay? But I think that gives me a different perspective because I came, you know, from the outside. I'm not an SFA alum. I've been an athletics director in the state of Texas and then outside of it, but also being an associate athletics director within this conference as well. I can tell you that from an outsider's perspective, the SFA is highly regarded. Okay, it is extremely highly regarded, and the opportunities that we have to capitalize on that reputation is something that I think we need a leader to understand. I think our location is phenomenal. When you think about being, you know, 2 hours, 15 minutes, depends on how fast you drive, between the third largest city in the country, to 3 hours to 2:45, again, depending on how fast you drive, to Dallas-Fort Worth. But you think about the state of Texas and the population, I think I saw something the other day that's maybe 70 to 75% of the population of the state of Texas is east of I-35. I mean, you think about that opportunity alone and what we have to capitalize on the potential students, the potential companies, the potential partnerships, the potential ability that we have to really grow this institution, I think is phenomenal. And quite frankly, that's why I'm here. That's exactly why I'm here, because I feel like this place is ready to explode. I think we have a board that is extremely supportive of us. I think the comment about us being an independent is something unique to Texas. Again, being an outsider, not being a Texan, I know Texans love their independence. That's why we still celebrate Texas Independence Day, right? And there's still a group of people that want Texas be its own country. I get all that, right? But that's the power, right? And that's the pride, and that's the opportunity that I think that this place has. And I think for a lot of people that are in it every day, right, you don't quite understand it because you don't see the forest through the trees. But from an outsider's perspective, this place has tremendous, tremendous potential and growth opportunity. And I think that's why it's critically important that we get someone in here that understands it, and then that certainly that can see it and can put all the pieces together. And so that's, to me, that's the biggest opportunity and really the biggest growth potential that we have. But don't take it from me, I'm just the athletics director. I got enough problems of my own. So.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Please know that this is not your only opportunity to share your thoughts with us. Our email address will be on the ad that you will see, and you should feel free to send us any information or suggestions or nominations that you would like directly to us. We promise that we'll follow up on each and every nomination. We will contact the person that's being nominated. As I was walking in, someone shared a nomination with me, and I have it in my pocket, and you can be sure that I will be contacting that person. We will be contacting that person shortly. So really, please be a part of this and share your thoughts with us. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Paul Henley. I'm on staff here. If you're looking for a fun project to start your presidency, I think accreditation might be a fun way to start. So I think that's something that needs to be on the table right away, is that we're coming up on academic year 2020 pretty quick. And in September of 2020 calendar, we have to file our compliance report. I think that's important. We need a president who can handle data and understand where the numbers might direct us to go. I've heard a lot about leadership. I think a key part here is getting buy-in. I think the hesitation of people to come up to these microphones is screaming at you in terms of the situation you have to navigate. There's definitely a split. There are definitely internal candidates. There will be external candidates, and people are just generally nervous to say up one way or the other right now. Somebody mentioned the Hispanic serving institutions issue. Let me give you a new twist. Our African American student population is dropping hard. I mean, I can show you a chart where it just goes, shoo. And as I said when we were finding a QEP topic, if you don't see that as a problem, you are the problem. And I think this is the last thing I want to say at this juncture, but we hired an athletic director by ripping him away from Austin Peay, and I think that was a good hire. We hired a football coach by ripping him away from A&M Commerce, and I think that's going to be a really good hire. This is specific to what you're going to do. I really think that you need to be using behavioral interviewing techniques so that, I mean, people might feel a way and they might dream of a way, but what have they actually done? And if we can couch all of the questions in terms of what have you done, then you'll get a really clear idea of what they're capable of actually doing. Okay, thank you.
You bet. Thank you. You know, along those same lines, we always ask for a resume and a cover letter of interest as part of the application package. And it's interesting how we never see a cover letter of interest where the candidate says, I'm autocratic, dictatorial, and controlling. It's remarkable how many candidates are team builders and consensus builders around the country. And the point at which you can really get to know, say, the management style, leadership style of these candidates, not only can you derive some of that from the interviews, but also it's the referencing. If you do good referencing, you can find out who these people are and what they have accomplished. But you're right, anybody can put something on their resume. And you know, it's like the development officer at Harvard. I think I could raise money at Harvard. But you know, how much was that person really responsible for? So thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
I'm the associate provost. I've been here at SFA for 20 years. Started as an English professor, so that's my background. And I swore I wasn't going to say anything today, but you mentioned what are our challenges. And I do want to throw out that I'm on a committee, a region-wide committee for Southeast Texas as part of the state's, they call it the 60 by 30 Texas initiative. And the idea is that by 2030, 60% of Texans will have some kind of college credential between the ages of 24 and 35. Right now, only a third of residents in this region of East Texas that we're in has a college credential. And that starts with a community college workforce certificate, like a welding certificate. So we're not talking about a third of people with a 4-year degree. Very few people in this region have a 4-year degree. And most of our students come from Houston or you know, the Dallas-Fort Worth area and then go back. They leave. They don't stay here. So a big challenge for this next president at a time when the population of the region is not growing, when our enrollment over many years has remained flat, frankly, while our competitors, their enrollments are going up. Sam Houston, UT Tyler, I could name a number of other schools that public universities, regional comprehensives, and slightly above that level, that have increased a lot while we're just managing to maintain our enrollment. How do we grow in a meaningful way? How do we keep more of our qualified alumni in the region, growing businesses? How do we increase those partnerships with our community, again, in a very meaningful, sustained, intentional way? This is huge. Most of our students are first-gen students. How do we serve students from those underrepresented backgrounds, low income, first generation? You know, how do we provide them with degrees that are going to improve them personally, broaden their horizon, but also provide them with the kind of careers that are going to, you know, propel them and help their children? And how do we keep those people closer to SFA? This is a major challenge for this university, and our next president has to be able to address that in a significant way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name is Greg Miller. This is my 22nd year on the faculty here at SFA. And so I'm going to speak primarily from the point of view of a faculty member. I also serve some other roles here, including a minor role with athletics, and you've heard from Ryan, but I'm going to talk to you as a faculty member today. Twice during the 22 years that I've been on faculty here, I've been part of an SFA vision plan that takes a look for what SFA might want to do during the next 5 years. I was on that during 2008 and then again later in my career. It's amazing how consistent those documents look. If you read our 5-year vision plans going back 15, 20 years ago, they're amazingly consistent. That doesn't say that there hasn't been any progress, but what that does say to me is that some of the major issues, especially those issues that address faculty, have been consistent things that have been identified. And so what I'd like to see out of a new president is the ability to be a decision maker under extreme constraint. We've talked a lot about wanting to grow. We've talked a lot about vision, and all that's great. But there has to be some ability to communicate feasibility. There has to be some ability to look at what logistically can be done and what can't be done and then communicate that. When faculty issues, and it's one of the elephants in the room and no other faculty member has said it, but you don't need me to say it, you'll hear it as you search for the president. SFA's faculty and staff are compensated at an extremely low rate. And I could be labeled as the complaining faculty member who came to the microphone to make that statement. But that's been an issue the university has sought to address for 22 years. And there hasn't been tangible progress made on these sort of issues. Faculty workload. When I came here 22 years ago, I had far greater space to create than what my colleagues do now. We talked about athletics facilities, and I would echo that with Ryan. But we talk about academic facilities too. What's important to faculty, not only is there compensation, but the feeling from administration and the feeling from the university of a sense of general everyday worth. And that's important for a university president to instill at every level, all the way down. At the vice president level, the dean level, that trickles down to those of us who are in the trenches that meet with the students every single day. So some of the same faculty issues that have been here for a while have been minorly addressed, but they've never been really solved. So university president's going to need to come in and be able to establish what's a feasible problem to solve, how do we solve it with a data-driven method, how do I communicate it, and when I can't solve it, how do I explain I can't solve it? And so I really feel like that some of those big issues that have been part of our vision, research dollars, faculty compensation, faculty workloads, if you'll look back at the SFA vision statements, if you'll look back at those self-studies, they've been there for a long time.
Thank you very much. This whole issue of funding is one that we all grapple with. And, you know, you've all heard that old saw about we've gone from state-supported to state-related to now state-located. And that's just a reality. And I don't think we're going to see any turnaround in state support, to be honest. I think that all university leaders are going to have to be far more adept at the fund and friend-raising aspects of the job, and that additional income is going to have to largely come from grants, philanthropy, and it's the president who has to be the focal point on a lot of that. And I think that your comments are well taken. It seems like money can solve a lot of the issues that we have. We just have to be resourceful and innovative enough to think how we can bring in more resources to the university. Who's next?
Ron Watson, Director of the Physical Plant. Been associated with the university since 1986. Hadn't planned on speaking either, but you asked a question, what are some of the areas a new president could come in and take advantage of? Yeah. Some areas where the university is, in my opinion, ripe for explosion. When I came here I came here as a student, but as a young professional after I got my degree, one of the things that we used to promote quite a bit on admissions groups was the notion that we really offer an education that's kind of unique almost what I would call a private school education at public school prices. I believe our contact level with students, whether it's faculty or staff, you're not a number at Stephen F. Austin State University, as you are at so many other institutions. And I believe that's something that a president, this entire university needs to remember and needs to continue to promote, because I think it's something we still offer. Our educational programs are great. We just got to get the word out, continue to make people realize that this is a great place to come and get an education. And I do know that the enrollment manager is working on some of these areas, but I would also encourage us to, or the new president, to consider, he or she, by the way, I would encourage them to help the enrollment management team and all the academic areas that are reaching out to Panola, Kilgore, Tyler Junior College, on and on and on, Angelina, our relationships and partnerships, getting those semester credit hours that are upper class semester credit hours, transfer students. We really are, you want to look at an opportunity I think we could really capitalize on with all the junior colleges and community colleges in the greater East Texas area. I think that's an area. Lone Star may be a little overused now. I think everybody's getting a relationship with them, but I believe Human Sciences has a program with the University, not University of Houston, but Houston Community College, HCC. There are other places out there that maybe we can. And then finally, I think as another opportunity, we could keep more of our own, something Dr. Guidry kind of hinted at, which is keeping a lot more of our own East Texas kids in East Texas to go to school. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. We still have a little time left. Anyone else? And I guess I would ask the board members who've been really so kind to sit in on this and to hear directly from you. Would any of you like to comment, address the group about the search and about your goals for the institution? David? Here, I'll give you the microphone, actually. I didn't mean to catch you off guard.
Well, I would just, as a member of the board, I would recommend that if there are any colleagues of yours that aren't here today, or if you felt that you couldn't say or didn't feel that it was the right context to say something to Bill or to Willie, if you could make your contact information available to this group, I think it would be helpful. Maybe they could send you some comments by email or phone call or whatever. Is that appropriate? If that's appropriate, I would encourage that. Yeah. And thanks to everyone for being here today. As a member of the board, I really appreciate your. We have a fiercely loyal faculty and staff here at SFA, and they do bleed purple, and I appreciate them very much, and I'm very thankful for the work they do every day in the classroom here to change the lives of lumberjacks.
Thanks, Dave. Here we go. Alton?
Thank you. I too had my voice saying thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. As a two-time graduate of this university, I tell you a lot of the things I've heard today, I've heard over the past 3 or 4 decades, thereabout. And I think the question really is what are our true hopes and dreams and aspirations for this university collectively? Two ways of looking at, some of the responses. One is that we're too mad to talk about it, or we're pretty happy. Probably somewhere in between. But what's important to understand is that this is a great opportunity. And we're asking your input on hopes and aspirations, not an indictment, because what you're asking for, it doesn't mean that it wasn't here before. You want to make sure that it continues going forward. This is a great place. It has changed so many lives. A big goal of mine is to truly have a stronger partnership between the university and the town. because students come to the university and live in the town. And we've heard that that is the challenge. And I know I saw someone from one of the civic organizations here, and we're having that conversation right now. But we've got to move from the conversation stage to the vision stage to the actual planning stage. And we need a president, I do believe, who appreciates that aspect and the major role this university plays in the city, but also in the whole region. There are so many children whose lives were completely changed, true confession, because of this university. And yes, one student moved away 35 years ago, but he's back. How long? I don't know, because he's making some changes. He's moving some cheese, stepping on some toes. So be careful what you ask for, because we're going to find that person. Be sure you really want that. Be sure you really want that. And I think you should want it. Everything I've heard is right on point. It's right on point. And we can stop right now, but we're not, and move forward and find someone who can do some amazing things. But we can't just hire them and sit back and watch. And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen. We're going to hire them and then remain silent about what we want, or we'll say it in places if they don't hear it, and hope they read our minds. We need someone who's going to come here and really engage folks, and when they ask, what are your hopes, your dreams, and wishes, you got to speak up and share with folks. You must participate. And I want to change our thinking from buy-in to ownership. This must be our aspiration. This must be our collective, our shared vision, and we must be willing to work for it. Maybe even sacrifice a little bit for it. And in the end, what will happen? We will have a place that folks want to be at, a town folks want to live in, an economy that becomes more vibrant and grows, and then all of that money you need for salaries and facilities, it comes with a healthy, growing environment. And it starts with us. It starts with us. So, thank you. And now we have, you want to speak? You're already speaking, right? That's all I got to say for right now. So, back to you guys.
Any last comment before we dismiss? Here we go.
I'm Chris Talbot. I'm the director of the School of Art. I know you're meeting with chairs and others tomorrow morning, but I'll be teaching a class at that time. But I did want to point out, I think we have some really great graduate programs here at the university. And that's an opportunity, and it's an area that needs some attention, I think, because, well, for example, I had a colleague who was at a conference at the end of last week, and he kept sending me texts of flyers from other universities saying that they have a free MFA or Master's of Fine Arts, which is our terminal degree. Which we also offer here. We have, I think, one of the first MFA programs in the state of Texas here at SFA. So we've got a great tradition going and some very good programs. But when our students are competing, we're competing for students. We don't have as much to offer them financially in a program. As we know, student debt is a very big issue. I think another thing that hasn't really been brought up, and I want to thank people for all of their really good comments, is really making me think a lot about what's important. But, and maybe to ask your opinion on this as well. From what I heard from Dr. Patillo and from others at the very upper level administration, is that they will give us reports on what's going on in Texas legislature and how they're advocating for the university at that level, at the state level. Obviously, that's important, that we have someone who can advocate for the university, especially since we're not part of a system, who can make the case for SFA before the state of Texas? And how important is it for someone to be connected at that level? Is it important that they're from Texas or that they know the people in charge here in Texas, in the legislature? How does that help us? Or is it, do people who come from out of state, would they be at a disadvantage? And what experience do you have with helping universities in that aspect of the surge?
Sure. I do think it's an advantage to have an articulate president who has the ability to relate and communicate with the governor, with the key legislators, the chair of the education committee. But I think that someone from outside, candidly, if they're the right person, will develop those relationships and will create those channels of communication. And that person does not necessarily have to come from within Texas. But someone needs to be ever standing on behalf of Stephen F. Austin, taking the message of the good things that are going here and the needs that you have to those individuals. But I don't think it matters in or out. The greater opportunity for someone within the state is that they understand the culture more immediately. And I think that would be the big advantage of an in-state person. But again, the right person knows how to adapt, knows how to begin to relate to a particular region of the country. To give you a sense, though, how do we approach a search? It's kind of interesting. You know, we do all kinds of studies about what attracts individuals to these positions. And, you know, we've done some pretty sophisticated work in that area, but a lot of it comes down to location, geography. It's so interesting. There are some folks in the Northeast who think there is no education done south or west of the Hudson River. There are some folks in the Southeast who would never go north of Maryland for one of these positions, and we still run into this. What Willie and I have talked about, you know, sometimes if you can find someone who's a graduate of the institution, who is in higher education, and who wants to come back, or if they have elderly parents living in the area, you know, that can be a lure. And if there are grandchildren in the area, it's a done deal, you know. But location and geography, I think, certainly are important. But in terms of those specific things you mentioned, I think a lot of that's learned behavior and skillful expression from a very good president can overcome that, for sure. Anything else? And if not, the chair of the board has a few comments for you.
Thank you. I would just like to say, on behalf of the Board of Regents and the screening committee, how much we appreciate you coming here today. Your input is vital to us. And we want you to know that we hear everything you're saying, and we're documenting it, we're putting it on a matrix. We want more information. Share with your colleagues that we want to hear from you. You will not go unnoticed. And so please share that information. Thank you all very much for coming, and do not hesitate to use the email to contact any of us, and certainly Mr. Funks, Mr. Funks. So thank you all.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.